Hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar. What's new in Visual Advanced Production Scheduler, Visual Production Scheduler and Visual Job Scheduler for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. I'm Martin, I'm CEO and co-owner of NETRONIC, and I'm your host for today. With me today, unlike in most other webinars that I have tried to do on my own, is our CTO Sasha, because this webinar is going to be a bit more technical than those that I typically do when we talk either about our new product features or when we talk about what you can do with the products, because actually we made some small steps of a technically big thing, which I am going to present and explain, but Sasha is here with me kind of to help out in case that your questions become too technical for me. So thanks, Sasha, for being here. Welcome to all of you. I made a good keyword used right now. That is the word questions. So please feel free to ask questions at any time using the GoToWebinar chat box. Typically, when I'm on PowerPoint, I directly see that you asked a question and I will try to answer it right away. If I'm presenting in my Business Central VM, then I won't see that you're asking a question, but after every presentation part or after every demo part, I will come back to PowerPoint and then I see your question and then I will answer it either right away or say, hey, I recognize there was a question, and then I will save it to answer it at the end of the session. So whatever question you have that is related to VPS, VAPS or VJS, feel free to ask. I'm really happy to have a conversation with you, to answer it and to get into a dialogue. The only reason for every one of you being muted is that we don't want to get disturbed by background noise. And with this, let's jump right away into it with a quick overview first. We have a tight schedule because we're talking about 3 products today, about the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler, the Visual Production Scheduler, the Visual Job Scheduler. Both of them are products that we used to have for Dynamics NAV and that we brought to Business Central as early as we could. So we released them in June 2019, and since then have really a good track record of regularly shipping new versions. And we are now at version 1.10. So in less than 2 years, we shipped 11 versions, which is pretty cool and shows that we are and proves that we are constantly enhancing our products. A bit more than a year ago, we released the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler and now also shipped the 6th version as the big brother to the VPS. So overall, I wanted to kind of reconfirm the message that with every new version, we do bug fixes, we do some behind the scenes work to improve performance and stability, and we also ship new features and functions. And also with this release, actually, we will ship something new that I will talk about in a second. Whenever we have a release, we not only say, hey, it's released, but we go to Microsoft and get the AppSort certification again. And actually this cycle, we also changed our official release date. So now for us, the release date is that point of time, not when we send it to Microsoft for certification, but when the new version is available on AppSource again. So if you are a customer, I would say this speaks for itself. This is security of investment because you see that we are a company highly committed on the product, highly committed on development, and highly committed on investing into those products. And if you're a partner, same message to you. I think this is a track record that is of big value in terms of stability and reliability to you and hopefully you to customers. So with this, let me look at something that is new. So typically in these, what is new with our products webinars, I say, hey, this is the product, these are the new features, and here is the demo. This time it is a little bit different because I said that with the new version, we not only ship new features and function, but something new. And this something new is that over the last couple of months, we actually worked and we have elements of that already in all three products, in the VPS, in the VAPS, and in the VJS. We started to make first steps to make our extensions extensible. This means our extensions, the Visual Advanced Production Scheduler, the Visual Production Scheduler, and the Visual Job Scheduler, they remain apps and they remain ready to use visual scheduling products for your customers or for you that you can directly use. However, we also will kind of under the hood change these extensions in a way that they also increasingly become tools or platforms on which you can build and where you can make enhancements to our extensions. So what we started to do is we built a documented API for our extensions. So that means we provide you with events to which you can subscribe to from your ISV solution or from the customer implementation that you do. So which means we give you capability that you from your code can listen to what is happening in the visual scheduler. So the visual scheduler gives you information about what is happening. You can listen to it, you can subscribe to it, and then of course within your application, within your extension, you can react to this. Likewise, we also give you some functions that you can use so that you, with your code from the outside, can control things that are happening in the visual scheduler. And this is really powerful because then you actually now can build extensions based on our extension. And with this, you can provide extended user experience for your customers, or a customized user experience. So if you have a customer with a very specific need that maybe is not addressed with the standard product that we have, going forward, there might be events and functions that you can use to build on our product to kind of ship the general NETRONIC user experience plus some customer specific user experience with an extension that you do. And as I said, we made the first step. So don't expect that you can do everything right away. But as we had in the past, that we said, okay, with every new version, we want to make bug fixes and some internal homework plus some features and function. Now we say, okay, going forward, we also see that we will enhance the API for our extensions and continue to ship events and functions. So for the current release, we kind of decided to pilot or start this with a VPS. So with the VPS, with the latest version, we make available 6 new functions and 6 new events, but we already did a very few and first things with respect to VJS, where we have 2 new functions and 1 event, and with the VAPS, where we don't have a function right now, but there is at least 1 event that we built for 1 client, and I can tell you about the use case later, in which I think is quite interesting actually. So with this kind of pre-words, let's look at the VPS, where we actually, as I said, piloted this and where we started to work on this. With the VPS, with this release 1.10, we didn't build any new feature, but we focused on building an API that customers and partners can build on. And we had one partner who kind of challenged us with respect to this. They gave us a lot of input. They have a customer with some very specific requirements, and they built something very specific for this customer based on our Navision VPS. And they challenged us now to kind of provide functionality so that they can achieve more with the VPS for their customer. And these are like the events that we shipped. If you go to help.netronic.com, and if you then go to the section on the VPS for Business Central, then there's a new chapter called API, and there you have kind of links to the events and function, and then you see a full documentation of these events and of these functions. But when I first saw this, and I'm not a developer, I actually kind of graduated in financial controlling back in the years. So when I saw this first, I said, hey, please, can you translate this into my language? And then we had Sasha and somebody from his team who sat down with me and talked me through this and gave me some examples what this means. So they said, okay, there is this event on after production order routing line selection change. Basically, this means if you select an operation in the visual schedule, or like select is the developer, but if I would say if I click on an operation in the visual schedule, then this operation is clicked, it is selected, and now we give you the information, hey, this event has been clicked. And then what you can do, for example, you can use this function to scroll to the first operation from that production order. Like, this is a logic that you can implement. You can say, okay, whenever the user clicks, whenever the user selects any operation in the visual schedule, then I want the scheduler to automatically scroll to the date of the first operation from that production order. This may make sense, this may not make sense, but this is possible just by subscribing to this event, making use of this function. Or another example is, we can start with the same event, like listen to what is clicked, what is selected in the visual schedule, and then combine it with set production order routing line custom color. So you can define any and set from your code any color for any operation. So basically what you can say is, okay, now I know which production order, which operation is clicked. Then from your code, you know to which production order this belongs. And from your code, you might know to which sales order this production order belongs. So what you can implement with your custom extension building on the VPS is a function that says, okay, whenever I click a production order, whenever I click an operation, I want to see all other operations from production orders that belong to that same sales order, and they should get colored in with whatever color. So these are just two examples what you can build. And you see, what I did is I gave you two examples that base on the same event and that make use of two different functions. And already this is powerful, especially this green case is really powerful. Imagine you click on an operation in the visual schedule and you see all operations that belong to production of the sales from the same sales order being colored in whatever, in red. This is powerful. It shows you on one view where all operations from this sales order are scheduled. And also you see that when you move one, if this has an impact on other deliveries for that same sales order. And now you can imagine that with 6 events and 6 functions, you can build really fancy stuff, although this is only the first step that we made. So what is possible? Well, things that now became possible. You can enhance the VPS menu. So you can add new functions to the VPS menu. So on the actions menu that you have new functions, and these new functions then call a function in your extension, and this function then works with our function and event to do something in the VPS, because you can change things that are happening in the VPS with your code. Likewise, you can enhance the VPS context menu. So for example, you could have this green function on the right-click context menu, like show me all other operations that belong to the same sales order. You can change the look and feel of the VPS objects, like make it context sensitive, as I spoke about, automatically color everything that belongs to the same sales order, or automatically color all production orders that are for one customer, or automatically whatever. Show me all, whatever. Show me all production orders that are late. I don't know. Something like this. You can really change how how you can really play with colors. You can scroll to certain dates. You can load different type of data sets because we have a reload function available for you, and we actually have like do skip work center. So you can say, now I want to reload only a fraction of my data and I want to skip some work centers. So there are really a lot of options. However, first things first, all of these ideas that I started to explain now, and I have a zillion of these ideas in my head, what you could do, they require that you do this, what this gentleman does. You need to develop first. So you need to develop an extension, an app based on our extension, and publish this extension into the customer's tenant for whom you want to have this functionality. And this actually is something that I would like to show you now as the very first step of this, because Sasha and team built an extension for me so that I can show something of those things that I just talked about. So let me quickly log back again into my system, and here we go. This is the VPS wrong product for the time being. Let's go to the visual production scheduler, use the show all filter, and very spectacular and not spectacular at all. This is the standard VPS. There is nothing different than what you know. I select this, then I see the link, I see the date line when this is due. The firm planned are dark blue, the planned are light blue, the released are orange. There are some progress bars. I can zoom in the time scale. So really nothing specific. On the right mouse click, these are the things that you know. And in the menu looks as you are familiar with from the VPS. So we said that in order to make use of the API, you need to write an extension that makes use of our API of the functions and events, and then publish this this extension into the customer tenant. So I have an API, an extension that's called VAPS API demo, which Sasha and his team built, which is not installed, which I install now. So it was successfully installed. Great. So now I think I need to log on and off. So now let's go back to the VPS. And now again, on the first glance, nothing changed. But if we, for example, look at the right-click context menu, then you see at the bottom things like reset color, select colored, reset selected, reload data, scroll to start of routing. So this is new. So these context menu entries that you see here, they came into the VPS context menu via the extension that I just installed. They were not there before. Now I installed the extension, they are there. So this is something that the extension brought to my context menu. Likewise, I think here, here under NETRONIC VPS, I have a few more entries that kind of give me now additional functionality coming from this demo API app that I just installed. So the very first step is all what I talk about now is not a new standard out-of-the-box feature, but what I talk about now are events and functions. So are tools that you can use to build proprietary apps that you download into your customers' tenants that build on our products, and then with these apps building on our app, you get additional functionality into our app. I hope that this was clear. A lot of apps in one sentence. So that was the first example that I want to show, is that first you need to have an extension and have this installed in order to kind of to activate and make use of the code that you develop based on our API. So now let's look at the first example of what I can actually do with this app that I installed, other than having a new menu entries. So what is it what I want to achieve? Well, I want to change the color of all operations that I click. And okay, this makes no sense. It's a little bit, I click this and it gets another color. I click this and it gets a new color. I click this and it gets a new color. So this kind of feels like a game for a 3-year-old who has to learn colors, but business-wise, it makes no sense. It's just an example. But imagine the same could support the scenario, hey, automatically color all operations from the same sales order. We just didn't implement this function in our sample app because we actually used the sample app also to do a lot of debugging and testing. So the sample app that I've installed is not a business app that enhances my VPS, but it is a sample app to show some functionalities and what can be possible. And in order to achieve this, so in order to achieve like that operation that I click get colored, I use the on after prod order routing line selection change event and the function that I want to set a custom color for every production or for the selected production order routing line. And again, let me quickly switch to Business Central and let's do this and do a little bit more. So I click an operation and nothing happens. Hooray. I click an operation and it gets red. I click another operation and it all get red, and so they stay in red. Anyway, so this is just like I just said, this is business from a business perspective, business sense. It is a little bit silly, but you can imagine that you could say, okay, I select this, and then every production order that belongs, or every operation that belongs to production of the same sales order gets highlighted, or you call for another criteria in your environment. You say, okay, now this is selected, and now please show me as a date line the earliest material availability date for this production order, if you have this in your customer solution. So now you saw I have this wonderful red mouse click. I can say reset color. So that then, and then I pick this one. It is red, and now you see. Let me have it like this. And now there was the other thing that I spoke about. What you could do is you could do something like scroll to start of routing, and then it scrolls to the start of routing so that the first operation of this routing here is on the very left-hand side. So these are all things that you now can build based on the events and the functions that we have. And again, this is not a huge scenario, but when I saw this first, as you just may have recognized, this created a lot of imagination with me. So like select this and then have a right mouse click menu, show me all that belong to the same sales order, or show me all that belong to the same BOM, right? If you have a multi-level BOM, then show all of them, or show me all that belong to the same, that are for the same customer. Something like this, and then have this all automatically colored, or have something select something that is late, and then like have something like show me first operation of this production order that is after the due date. And then you could calculate this in your business logic and then return the values and select everything that matches these criteria. So this is the very simple example. I have another one that is more sophisticated. So I could have the theoretical question, show me the utilization of my cutting work center starting from January next year, but only show me those operations that come from a sales order which is due in the same month. So this is again a quite weird question, but you can actually build something that helps you answer this question by using these events, these functions, and also manipulating the user setup table and reduce the time range in the view. So just one comment to Sasha, we should make some homework and also prepare documentation how we can achieve this. This is something that I recognized when I prepared for the meeting today. We have really well documented this, and I think for this, if you give me some input, we will write a blog about this, how this can be done, or put it also in the knowledge base. But still, something like this, and again, this can be quite powerful. So show me the utilization in a dedicated work center for a given time range, and then only include the production orders for customer Kronos. Or like show me the utilization. So if you're a combined make to order and series manufacturer, and if your make to order jobs are always time sensitive, and the ones that are the series production, they are always not time sensitive, then say like show me the utilization of my work center XYY in this time period, but only show me those operations that are make to order, and that are from make to order jobs. Then you only see them, can kind of in quote optimize them, then have a schedule for them, see all, and then see which kind of conflicts this created with some stock orders, and then just push them out. So this is possible. Something like this is possible with using these 3 events and these 2 functions. And again, let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at this from here. And you see now, let me do one thing here. I fit this into view. So the period of time that I loaded is January 21 to April 21. And remember, my question was, show me production orders that are on my cutting work center in January 2020. So something that I did not have loaded at all in the VPS, but for some reason this might be interesting for me. So I have now this function that we call set sales filter. And if I do this, if I click this, then you see we loaded data completely new. Now I have the time range starting on the 18th of January next year for a few weeks. And I see that there are production orders on my cutting machines 1 and 2 that belong or that come from a certain sales order. And this has been now triggered, this has been loaded by me using a new function that I built with these show the demo API extension, making use of our events and functions. And now I said remove this or reset, reload again, and then I'm back into the view where I was before with my current data, and those that were highlighted in red before because I clicked them still are highlighted in red. So these are 2 examples of what can be done, and they are a little bit theoretical, but I hope that they give you an understanding of what can be achieved with the visual production scheduler plus the new API that we started to build, where we now provide 6 events and 6 functions that you can start to program with and build some of the cases that I showed you, and also some of the cases that I spoke about. And I think the cases that I spoke about, they might be really relevant for some of your customers. So with this, I want to switch from the visual production scheduler to the visual job scheduler. For the visual job scheduler, we actually also built a new feature, a quite big one actually. And this is a feature that we call the links on all levels. So Before that version, with the VJS, we already gave you the capability to define links, so dependencies between a predecessor and a successor, or start-start relations, in a graphical way, save them, or you could define these links in job templates that you build, and then when you created new jobs based on those templates, then all these load links got applied. However, we had the limitation that so far we only allowed you to build links between job planning lines. Now we enhance this linking functionality that we also allow to create links between jobs, job tasks, and job planning lines, and all combinations hereof. So you can link a job with a job. You can link a job task with a job task, but you can also link a job planning line to a job task. You can link a job planning line to a job task to a job planning line. You can link a job to a job task. So there are, all combinations are possible, and while you do so, we kind of always check that you are not creating some circular links. Then we give you warning. And of course, the new type of links that you can create, for example, between job and job, or between job and job planning line, or between job tasks, all this, they follow the same save mechanism than before. So if you create a job template with links between jobs or job tasks or job planning lines, and save this and create a new job based on this template, you will have all these links. So this is quite huge and kind of rounds up what we built before. In addition to this, we also published one event and two functions. One function is actually quite interesting. If you have a solution that goes beyond the standard business central jobs model. So if you have a project management solution, or if you have a customer who wants, which is quite common actually in project management, that you help them save the baseline. So if they do an initial project plan and then want to save the baseline, and if you build functionality for them that they can store a project baseline, we now have in the VJS a function that is called set job planning line baseline. So then you can make use of this data that you have to store for your client, or that you have to manage for your client. But we give you the functionality that if you have a project baseline, a job baseline in your customer's environment, then you can visualize this as follows by making use of this function. So if you use this function, you can achieve visually something that looks like this. So this was my project is my project baseline. So this is where I had this job planning line initially planned. Also, screenshot doesn't make much sense with this starting in the weekend, but anyway, now this got moved to be here on, I would assume that is a Wednesday. So it got moved out a few days so that you can see what was the plan before and what is my current plan. It is not comparing plan to actuals because we don't have any timesheet entries here, but it compares initial plan to current plan. And again, having the information about the initial plan is nothing that is available in the standard Business Central. So with a standard VJS, we can't show you this visually because we lack this data. We lack this data about the baseline. But if you implement a baseline functionality for your client, or if you have a baseline functionality in your database, or if you have a baseline functionality in your ISV solution, then you can make use of this function. The other two things are also quite interesting. This is, you see, we have this distribution logic. So far, when we calculate the length of a job planning line, we can say, okay, we can either have it one day long, independent of the number of hours scheduled. So it would be, if we do it like this, it would be like a bar 1 day long, and then it has 20 hours on that day. Or we say kind of calculate the length of the job planning line, and then if the resource has an 8-hour calendar, then we spread the 20 hours, 8 hours the first day, 8 hours the second day, and 4 hours the fourth day. So with these events and function, you can also, from your business logic, apply a different logic to kind of calculate the length of the bar. So this is quite powerful. I won't show this now. I thought, like, because the API for the VPS is the biggest, I thought to start with some examples there. So now with my demo, I will focus on this new feature. This links on all levels. So let me go back and let me switch gears. I only want to look at my project because right now I'm not interested in my templates. So here we go. This is the VJS as you know it. I have the job view. Parallel to the job view, I have the resource view where I look at the same data, but now from the perspective of the resource groups and resources. And all these boxes here are the job planning lines. Let's build some links actually in the job view, and let's start with these green projects. So if we look at this project, or if I, let's say, expand all, then I see this job kind of currently, as my Business Central says, is scheduled for this week and that week. I have like a phase 1 and a phase 2, and this phase 1 is divided into step 1, step 2, and this should be step 3. So let's say typo, and then the second phase only has this one step. In the first phase, I need a project manager, technical office. In the second phase, I need technical office again. Then I have some whatever production, and then I have some field installation guys going to the customer and implementing what these guys designed and these guys produced. So now you see, by Business Central I planned it in Business Central in a way that they all have the same start date, which makes no sense because you need to do step 1 first, then step 2, or phase 1, step 1, 2, 3, and then you can go into phase 3. So ideally, you have a dependency. So in the past, you also only could achieve this with linking the planning line. So I had to create a parallel link from here to here, a finish start link from here to here, a finish start link from here to here, a finish start link from here to here, and then again two start links. So this now became much easier because now I can, for example, say, okay, this is my first job task. I want to start creating a link. Once this is done, I need to do this task. It should be finish start. And you see now the link is created. It is in red because now this is a violation. Like as my data is right now, this link, this finish start link is violated. I leave it as this is, and I want to do it again. This is the start. This is the finish of my next sequence in this project. And then this should link actually to the last phase. So I'm doing it again, start new link creation, and this goes then into this phase and link creation, and again finish start. So now I set up like the dependencies, the major dependencies in my project. And now what I can do is I can say, okay, now I want to schedule this. So from here, I want to schedule all successors. And if I do this, we take the links into account. Hopefully it worked when I tested it. Okay, this is a demo effect. Now it took longer than expected. But anyway, so now everything is scheduled out as I defined. So this task needs to be finished before that task can start, and so on and so forth. And of course, if I move now this task because my production is delayed for some reason, then I again get the warning that the successors are not scheduled, and then I can schedule them. And Sasha, we need a wait cursor for this. But you see that you can define these type of dependencies. And if for some reason this project needs to be finished before that project can start, you also can create this from job to job. And again, I can say scheduled successors. And then this entire job will be pushed out in a second, in 2 seconds. But it should be, and now it's pushed out. There's definitely some homework to do in terms of performance. I'm glad that Sasha is with me in this meeting, so he could see this live. But overall, this functionality is really huge, because now you can define all these dependency, and I think this will definitively help you to better manage and schedule projects and resources. So let me quickly, because this can happen in the background, change the demo environment before I go back to my slides and then return back to talk a little bit about the VAPS. So that was it about the VJS. So also for the VAPS, and there's a typo. This is version 1.5. We actually shipped 3 new features. We have a production order view, like you know from the visual production scheduler. We now also allow to move pinned operations. So you could also call it, we want to force to move it, or you actually can call it manual scheduling. So we now give you and your customers the opportunity to, with selected operations, do whatever you want to do. You can violate constraints, you can do what you want, but the operations with which you do this, they need to be pinned in advance. And then we also have, we used to have the fill idle times function as a global scheduling function, so that when you applied the fill idle time functions, it was always applied to all machine and work centers. And now this fill idle times function is also available selectively on machine center level. And then last but not least, we also have one event that we provided for the VAPS, and this is the on-post publish simulation event. And the idea is quite straightforward. So whenever a simulation is published, so with a VAPS, for those who do not know, are not aware of it, you can build various simulations of your production schedule. And then if you are happy with one of the simulations, you need to publish it. And if you publish it, your business central data or your customer's business central data get updated. And now we give you an event that you can subscribe to, so that you actually get to know when a simulation has been updated. Because actually the change of a production schedule could trigger additional activities or events. And the customer for whom we built this, they wanted to make sure that whenever the production scheduler opens, saves, publishes a new production schedule, then like the machine operators and the people on the shop floor get notified immediately about the changes that have been made to the schedule. So they build a functionality on their own to check which changes have been made, and now there is, okay, when a simulation is published, they check what has been changed, and then they notify the machine operators of their client. So they built this functionality on their own, but in order to kind of let it run automatically, they needed this event, so we gave it to them. And again, this is the first step that we are also making with the VAPS in the direction of having an API of events and functions, and there's definitively more to come. So now let's have a quick look at those features before I then like to wrap it up. And I go back to hopefully now a new company. Yeah, that's great. So let's go to the VAPS, and as said before, the VAPS does not read directly from the respective production order tables, but you have to create a simulation first. So you take a snapshot of your data on which you want to schedule without disturbing execution, and then once you are happy with this, then you can publish the simulation. So I'm creating now a simulation. I'm defining the minimum status of production order. So I say, okay, I want to include all from planned, so planned, firm, planned, and released. I define a time range, and I define how I want to see the data. And then I have a simulation. I have a subset of my data on which I now can schedule and play and make changes without disturbing what's going on the shop floor. When the VAPS comes up, it comes up in the capacity view, where we have the work center groups, the work centers, and the machine centers on the left-hand side. So most of you should be familiar with this. So we also used to have a sales order view. I actually didn't check if I have data in here. Yes, there is one sales order that for that item, 10,000 quantity 50, that created the production order. All the other production orders have been created either manually or from the planning worksheet here. So we used to have the sales order view. We used to have the capacity view. And so now what is new in the VAPS is also that we have the production order view that you know from the VPS, where we look at the production orders one by one based from their status, so the planned and the firm planned. Down here, the released ones. You can drill down and then see from the production order to the production order line level, and from the production order line level to the production order routing level, so that you can see on one glance where you stand with this particular production order. It is important to know that as the VAPS is a finite capacity scheduling tool, and as finite capacity scheduling, in my point of view, always require that you have a full and transparent picture of what is happening on the machine. The production order view is read-only right now. So if you want to change this operation here, because you say, okay, something happened on milling, I need to postpone it or whatever, from here, you don't see what is happening on milling, but you can now say on a right mouse click, show this in capacity view. And then this is highlighted here. And now I see what's happening in milling, and I see, okay, I cannot postpone it easily because other production orders are waiting here. So this is one thing that we build, the production order view. And of course, like from here, right mouse click, show in production order view, I also can switch over to the other view. The other thing that is new is the fill idle time function. Before I show you the fill idle time functions, maybe one thing. For those who are unfamiliar with the VAPS, you see there is this yellow thing, which is the standby resource, and the standby resource is something we add automatically to every work center. The standby resource contains all production orders that have been created in Business Central, so either from the sales order or manually or via the planning worksheet, and that have not yet been scheduled with the VAPS. So the VAPS actually gives you tools to efficiently plan those production orders. So I can say add all, and then we iterate through the plan, we iterate also through the allowed alternative machine centers, and then we automatically schedule them, so taking into account finite capacity so that we don't have any overload on any machine center. However, we now see that actually here is a little bit of idle time on my cutting machine 1, and I wonder if somewhere here on my cutting line are operations that could be pulled forward, making use of this idle times without violating the overall schedule, so without kind of pushing out one of those. So now on a right mouse click, I can say fill gaps. We will rename this to fill idle time. So I can say fill gaps, fill idle times just on this machine center. And then we look at all operations on this and all operations on this machine center only, and see if they for some reason could have an earlier start date than the one as they are currently scheduled. And if I do this, then you see, okay, this gray one moved a little bit forward and this black one moved, so I can make a little bit better use of my time here. This is today, so my time next week, by filling a bit of idle time. And the reason why there is still a gap between the blue one and the gray one that we pushed forward is because we have a predecessor constraint. We cannot start earlier because the predecessor of this gray one finishes here. Likewise with the black one, there's a predecessor constraint, so it cannot be started earlier, but at least we are making better use of the machine's time based on the current workload that we have with this fill idle times function that we now can specifically apply to any machine center. So same here, if I do so, let's see if this orange one moves. If I do so, fill gaps on machine center, then orange and black one got moved. So then the last thing that we implemented with the VAPS is the capability to kind of, let's say, manually schedule or violate constraints. So let's look, for example, at this production order here, and I have this as a starting point. So it starts in milling, then it goes to cutting, and then from cutting it goes whatever to assembly. And now what I can do is I can actually first, I can pin this operation and block capacity. So I can pin it, then it is frozen here. And even if this, if things like, if the black one moves, let me move the black one. Sorry, too fast. If the black one moves, it will not move this blue one out, but at some point of time it jumps behind the blue one because this is pinned. This is frozen. This will not get changed by automatic scheduling. So what I now can do is, if I know as a production planner that, okay, these guys in milling, they will be ready a little bit earlier, or I know they, whatever, send me partial quantity and can start earlier, then what I can do is actually, I can say now, change pinned operation, then it gets a red border, and then I can do with this operation whatever I want to do. So I can, for example, say, okay, I know that these guys in milling, they are fast, they will be ready by Tuesday night, so I can deliver, I can start working on this operation on my cutting machine on Wednesday. Although Business Central tells me that this is impossible, although I got a warning, hey, there's a link, a restriction with this change pinned operations or this force move function. Now you actually get the freedom to manually override the result of automatic scheduling, and as this is pinned, this will remain pinned. So this is another new option that we have to manually override the results of automatic scheduling and have it like this without the system changing it again back and trying to correct it. So this is actually an overview of what we have shipped earlier this month. I think the development team really did a great job in getting these features and functions out, and I especially like the fact that we starting to make our extensions extensible. I think this is only the starting point, but in my opinion, there are a lot of powerful options for you and your clients and for us if we continue on this path and like increasingly give you more tools and options to kind of build individual user experience based on our standard product. So I'm really excited that we started on this journey, and we are really committed to continue on this journey. So I also didn't want to just look back into what we shipped earlier this month, but also want to look shed some light on some stuff that we are working on. So for all products, for VAPS, VPS, and VJS, we will do a few further API enhancements, especially with respect to coloring and with respect to layout flexibility. We also work on making calc fields available in the dialogues to configure the table, the tooltip, and the bar label. Currently, we can only show fixed fields there, but going forward, we also want to give you the capability to show calc fields, for example, in the tooltip. And this is something that happens behind the scenes. We also look at a way to kind of come up with a monetization and licensing engine, especially as we see that kind of the app source driven business gets more traction, and we want to make sure that we earn what we feel we have earned from our work. With the VAPS, we continue to work on something that I actually announced to be available earlier this year. We have a feature that we call sequence dependent setup time. So this is like a setup time oriented or optimizing scheduling. This was almost done in March. Then we decided to put this on hold because in the way we implemented, we saw some room for improvement, and we didn't want to ship a function that would survive a sales demo, but maybe would fail in the first productive environment. So we decided better to do it right than fast. So now we are continue to work on this. This is definitively very high on our priority system, and I'm very confident that the path we are taking now will lead to the aimed at result, not only for the sales demo, but also for using this functionality in a production environment. Then we also started to look at supporting send ahead functionality, which is a standard field and property and attribute in Business Central, which we currently don't support. So we have plans to support this also in the near future. And for both VAPS and VPS, we also look at supporting queue times in the schedulers. And on the VJS, we kind of want to finish the work on links. So we will make links, all the remaining two link types available. Right now we have finish start and start. So we will also introduce start finish and finish links. And we will also come up with link durations so that you can say, okay, the kind of the time gap between this whatever job planning line and that job planning line should be 3 days. And with this, I'm opening this up for questions, and I actually see that there is some question. No, it was just like a comment, somebody thanking me for a very interesting webinar. Hey, thanks for the great feedback. That's happy to hear that we are building products that are interesting for you and also delivering content that is interesting. So if you have a question, then ask it now, or please send me an email or send me a message on LinkedIn. I'm really happy to get in contact with you and to work with you. So if there is something that comes up after the event, something that you want to discuss, where you have a question, or if you need help with your specific challenges, or if you need help with some of your customers' challenges, then just let me know. I will either work with you directly or get you in contact with my team members, and then we make sure that we either help you or help your customers. I don't see any question right now. So then this just lets me conclude that we reach the end of this webinar. I cordially thank you for your attention. And before I say stay safe and healthy, another comment. Okay, thanks again. Just no further questions. So then stay safe and healthy. Take care and see you soon in one of our upcoming webinars. Bye for now. Take care.